Look, I love Zelda as much as the next person, but you gotta admit, some of these items you get are just freaking stupid. These are the worst items you can get in every Zelda game. Starting off with the original Legend of Zelda. Zelda 1 really set the standard for all the items that helped define the series. I feel like everyone had a default item set to their B button whenever they play. I personally love having the boomerang ready at any time so that I can stun enemies and grab faraway rupees. Other people like having the bow or the magic rod. But nobody, and I mean nobody, ever has their B button so that they could use the bait. This haunch of meat can be dropped anywhere on the screen and it makes enemies attracted to it so that they hang around in that little spot. That's it. In the time it takes to drop the meat and wait for all the enemies to gather around it, you could be instantly stabbing them with your sword or stunning them with a boomerang or shooting them with whatever projectile. Even worse, it doesn't work on every enemy type. So what's the point? It takes too long and it isn't efficient enough. You do have to get the meat at some point in the game. It isn't a dungeon item, you have to buy it from a store. And the Goraya blocking the entrance to level 7 grumbles and blocks your path unless you give him the meat. And then when you do, it's gone. No more meat in your inventory. What do you want me to do then? Go buy another one? That's like 80 arrows I could save. No thanks, that ain't worth it. Zelda 2 doesn't really have the same kind of usable items per se, but it does have a handful. I'm not gonna count the spells as items since they're, you know, magic. Most of the items allow Link to traverse the overworld. The hammer to break boulders, the raft, the water walking boots, and a couple are actually passively used in dungeons. I have fun with the gloves to punch blocks, for example. But the least helpful item is the cross. All it does is make some invisible enemies visible. And it's only one enemy type, these flying eyeball guys, who are super annoying, don't get me wrong, but that's about it. If they weren't everywhere in the final path up to the Great Palace, I'd say the cross is entirely skippable. Even then, they could have just made the enemies visible by default? Like, what a waste of an item slot. You know what's not worthless? This video sponsor, Opera GX. Opera GX is the first free web browser designed for gamers in mind. It has a ton of features tailored to us, including a built-in ad blocker, a built-in VPN, and the GX Corner. This gives you things like an upcoming release calendar so you can actually know when a game is coming out, and really helpful things like on-screen alerts when your favorite YouTuber starts streaming live on Twitch. There's also a ton of customization options like color schemes, wallpapers, and even sound effects like this. See, that's just great. You can even quickly import passwords, bookmarks, and other settings from your current web browser of choice. Click the link in the description below. It's free for you to download and to try. And every single person that downloads and installs it helps out the channel and makes sure Editor Dylan can feed his kitties. Once again, click the link in the description for either desktop or your mobile device to get it downloaded and help us out. And thank you to Opera GX for sponsoring this video. Link to the Past is my all-time favorite Zelda game, but even I can admit when an item sucks. Almost everything in here has multiple uses. Even dumb stuff like the Book of Majora is used more than twice, but there's also some that are redundant. In the Link to the Past, there's the Cane of Burna. The blue staff surrounds Link with a magical energy that makes him invincible. There's also the Magic Cape, which turns Link invisible and makes him invincible. What? Two items that basically do the same thing? They have only a slight difference between them. The Cane's magic swirly thing can damage enemies that come into contact with you. The Cape lets Link walk through bumpers. That's it. So sure, they both make you invincible, and both let you swing your sword while you're using it, but only the cane does damage back to enemies who touch you. So just from that, it's just a little bit more useful. Look, I can only think of a single time where the magic cape is required, and that's for exactly one heart piece in the Dark World where you can use it to walk past a bumper, and that's it. The cape is only here because they probably thought it was fun to turn invisible and that would be impressive on a technical level, but it sure isn't very helpful. So thus, the worst item is the Magic Cape. Link's Awakening doesn't have a whole lot of items when you think about it. It actually has less items overall than the original Zelda, which makes it even worse when one of them sucks. Now, to be clear, we're only counting items that you can actually use and not things you pick up, because otherwise the most worthless thing would be the Guardian Acorn. Oh yeah, take half damage and the whole time I just have to listen to So instead, focusing on equipable items. The shovel has the most narrow use of every item you can possibly get in the game. It can dig you up some seashells, sure, but the only thing it's required for is getting the key to the third dungeon, and the dang shovel costs 200 rupees just to do that. Hey, maybe next time we can skip the middleman altogether and just let me buy the dumb key for all that money. Is this an easy one? I feel like this is an easy one. Everyone I know has a singular, most hated, least used item in all of Ocarina of Time. You could argue it's something like the Giant's Knife, because hell yeah, look at it, it's such a big sword, it does so much damage and breaks after like 5 swings. But at least it killed some stuff and you felt cool in the meantime. However, nobody, and I mean nobody, feels cool using the worst item in the game, bomb chews. It's like having a bomb, only when you tell it to go somewhere, it fucks right off in a different direction. Did anyone have fun playing the bomb chew bowling minigame? Anyone? Come on, just go in. Damn it! This one, this is the one. No! You know what? Don't go in. I don't even care. Fuck you. Majora's Mask is plagued with items that are basically single use. It's a lot of quest-specific items like Kafei's Mask or Kamaro's Mask. Some have uses, but are debatable if it's actually worthwhile. The Circus Leader Mask is actually worthless, but some of the masks just plain suck. For example, the Blast Mask. It allows Link to explode. That's it. Even though there are bombs aplenty throughout the whole game, you can make Link combust right where he stands. Worst part is that he takes damage from this. So it's not like he's immune from the blast. You can block and explode to get around this, but then the mask takes like 15 seconds to recharge. So why would I ever use this mask when pulling out a bomb whenever I want is just as effective and safer and faster? So with that, I think we can safely say that the worst item in Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask is bomb chews again! I hate these little guys! Oh, why did they bring them back? Hey, remember the Zelda Oracle games? Alright, I think I counted 5 hands going up. Swimming in Zelda games has been kind of a staple now ever since Link to the Past, and Oracle of Ages keeps it up with their own Zora's Flippers. But once you get the upgrade for it, it becomes much, much worse. When you have the flippers, you swim around as you would expect from any video game. Direction pad to move and the A button to swim. But once you've upgraded it to the mermaid suit, you swim around by rapidly pressing the D-pad. This is so much more obnoxious than it sounds. This actually hurt my thumb to use after a short while. I hated doing this so much, it's one of the reasons I preferred the other game, Oracle of Seasons. Not many people have done this, but the Oracle games allows you to link them using special passcodes you get for beating one or the other. It changes up the story a bit to make it seem like one continuous adventure. More importantly, it lets you use the codes for unlocking special items. You can get things like upgraded seed bags, extra heart containers, and bomb chews. Damn it, they're back! These are just like regular bombs, except they slide forward very slowly. Why is it bomb chews? Why must so many Zelda games keep forcing bomb chews? Zelda the Wind Waker is another one of those few games in the series where almost every item has a use. Even the more exhausting ones to get, like the Knight's Crests or whatever, are helpful to have. But there is one item that I never, ever really used in the game. The telescope lets you see far. That's it. Look, I get that the ocean is massive and the draw distance is super impressive, but at no point did I ever stop everything I was doing, open the pause menu, equip the telescope, just to look off into the distance. For the most part, I could still see what was coming up again, and if I wanted to scout it out, I would just go there. The worst part is that this is one of those first items you get in the entire game from Link's little sister. She explains how her telescope is her most prized possession when she gives it to you, and it's really stupid. I like to imagine Errol placing the telescope in Link's open hands, who keeps them open and lets the telescope slide right off onto the ground, and then he walks away. Four Swords Adventures is one of those criminally underplayed Legend of Zelda games. It's honestly really fun when you get friends together and try to solve all the puzzles. It also doesn't have a whole lot of items in the game, and the ones that are there are par for the course and pretty solid. So the most worthless thing that you can have in Four Swords Adventures is your friends. Why are they all so dumb? Why can't they figure out how to solve the simplest puzzles? Why do we keep fighting over who picks up the most Force Gems when it doesn't matter? So this is why I never finished the game. Everybody is too much of an idiot. Including me. Look, there's items with limited uses, and then there's items you literally never have to use. Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap is solid, even if the items kind of suck. You get it? The gust jar? Okay. But by far the worst item in the game is the Mirror Shield. To get it, you have to feed the Big Goron your regular shield and then go back to him after a while. He then gives you the upgraded shield, which can now block even more projectiles than ever before. The only problem with this is that you can only get the Mirror Shield after you've beaten the game. What? What's the point then? This would have been super helpful several dungeons ago. I'm literally never going to use this, and I already had to do all the annoying stupid kinstones on the Gorons just to wake this guy up. Hey, Mirror Shield, look at yourself in the mirror and realize that you suck. I probably like Twilight Princess more than most people. I really like that they had the concept of either making every item new or an old favorite with a new twist. New items like the ball and chain is fun to use, and making familiar items like the boomerang now have wind powers, or the iron boots being used magnetically are good ways of making them interesting to use again. Now, I know it's easy to say that the worst item is the spinning top. Much like many previous items, it has very limited use. It's good for one dungeon and like one area outside of that for a piece of heart. But admittedly, I liked the boss fight with it. It was like a roller coaster ride the whole way. But at least it was something new and different. Not new and not different, and easily the worst item is the second claw shot. Why? What does this do that's interesting? Just shoot a claw shot again from that point? This is the same effect as anything you would grapple to being a platform or letting you claw shot from whatever you're hanging on anyway. It's not like you could suddenly do some kind of sick double claw grab against enemies in the middle of battle where you claw shot one and then claw shot another and then slam them together and make you think you're like Spider-Link or something. It just exists. This might be the most worthless upgrade in all of the Zelda games. Okay, look, the Phantom Hourglass also has bomb chews, but they're actually really good in this game because you can just draw on the touchscreen where you want them to go. So this is the only place where I like them. Surprisingly, the Phantom Hourglass only has generally useful items. You can make an argument that the worst one is the titular Phantom Hourglass, since filling it up to get more time in the stupid time dungeon and having to do that dungeon over and over and over again is the worst part about the game. However, it's more like a quest item and not something you actively use, so I'll cut a break and not count it. Instead, I'll say the worst item is the Skippy Jack. This dumbass fish doesn't even do anything for you. If you catch one using the fishing rod and then show it to the old wayfarer, even he'll say how disappointed he is in it. In Link's crossbow training for the Wii, literally the only item you get is the crossbow. So I guess by default, the worst thing you get is the main thing the game is built around. For being just as bad, I would also accept the little cardboard sleeve the game just comes with instead of a full case. Spirit Tracks as a DS game is pretty good. It has some fun ideas, and having Zelda follow you around, sort of, was cool, and the closest thing we got to having her as a playable character for the longest time. You know what's not fun? The Spirit Flute. There are only 5 songs to learn in the entirety of the Spirit Tracks, and of them, only like 3 are actually needed to complete the game. Which I know there are other games with other songs that aren't required, but when you only have a handful of songs to play and a 60% usefulness rate, it really shows. But honestly, it's the way you use the flute that makes it suck. Remember, this was a Nintendo DS game, which meant that every single Nintendo DS gimmick must be used. Since it's a pan flute, you have to slide it back and forth using the touchscreen while actually blowing into the DS's microphone. It never worked the best, and I didn't feel like I was playing a pan flute as much as I was a shitty harmonica, a decidedly less cool instrument. Every single person who had to play the Spirit Flute while holding the DS in one hand and a stylus in the other while blowing into it looked like an idiot. Pardon the pun, but it blows. At least there were other ways of making it work besides blowing. What is their obsession with forcing a musical instrument into every Legend of Zelda game? I know Skyward Sword has problems, lots of them, but the only time I got visibly frustrated while playing it is because of a singular item, the Goddess Harp. This stupid thing just doesn't work. I'm talking about the original Wii release, where it had motion controls out the tingle. That meant playing the harp using motion controls. There are many moments where you're supposed to watch the pulsing light around Link and wave your Wiimote back and forth in time with it, but I swear to Miyamoto, it never registered properly. It's much easier in the HD release since you can just use the right analog stick instead, but there is still a motion control option and it still sucks, and I will never forget the frustration I felt from the Wii original. Triforce Heroes is kind of like Four Swords Adventures, a multiplayer Zelda game that was criminally underplayed. It can actually be a lot of fun. However, not all the items are fun. One of them you can get is the camera, which they've had camera items before and they were silly and fun to use in games like Wind Waker HD, but for Triforce Heroes, after taking a picture, the only thing you can do with it is post it to the Miiverse. The Miiverse that no longer exists, and thus no reason to have a camera in a game that everybody already forgot exists anyway. This is probably the hardest one to pick because honestly, every item in Link Between Worlds is pretty sweet. They all have their uses, they can all be upgraded, and the fact that you can get them in any order you want means you're never stuck with a stupid long for too long. If I had to pick the worst one though, I guess it would be, the sand rod? Not because it isn't fun, because it is. Making sand pillars is neat, letting you walk across them or merge into their walls to traverse around. It's only the weakest item because the sand rod requires, sand. That isn't exactly everywhere in the game, so it has the most narrow use. But when that use is available, it is pretty neat. So I'm sorry, Sand Rod. You're not sucky, you're just the weakest item in the game. but I still love you. There's an easy pick for Breath of the Wild here, and that's Hestu's gift, because it's literally his poop. But again, that's more of a collectible than a usable item, so I won't count it. Instead, the worst item you can get is every single weapon, shield, and bow in the game, because they all break! It doesn't matter how much you like it, or how good it is, it will get destroyed. Coolest sword ever? Breaks. Favorite shield to use? Breaks. Best bow in the world? Breaks. It's like they took Ocarina of Time's giant knife and multiplied it by 190. And look, if you're sitting there already typing out a comment about how this is a cop-out answer, then fine. The worst item then is the dubious food. And it only exists because you fucked up. Much like Breath of the Wild, it's easy to say all of Tears of the Kingdom's weapons suck because they're all breakable, but they can all last a lot longer now thanks to being able to fuse them together. Even more exciting are the bizarre concoctions and vehicles you can create with the Ultra Hand ability. Flying bikes, cannon shooters, whatever the hell this is. This is all thanks to the multitude of Zonai devices you can find and build with. However, some of them are just kind of stupid. The stupidest one is the fire hydrant. What can you do with it? Make things wet. This is one of those items where it isn't entirely worthless, but way too narrow in its usability. Soak something, turn lava into a platform, and maybe put out a fire that was probably your fault to begin with. That's pretty much it for the fire hydrant. At least it's really funny for building things, I'll give it that. Zelda Echoes of Wisdom is kind of like Tears of the Kingdom. It's not so much about the items as it is the echoes that Zelda can learn. But also, most of the echoes have some kind of use to them, so it's hard to say any one of them is absolutely awful. You can also make smoothies. It's like cooking in the 2-Switch open world Zelda games, only here, Zelda puts together ingredients for a curative drink that can give extra bonuses. And you can also completely screw it up and make some absolute garbage. The appropriately named Unfortunate Smoothie is the worst thing you can make. Every single smoothie is needed to heal you or give you stat boosts. The Unfortunate Smoothie heals exactly half of a heart. And again, you have nobody to blame but yourself. What were the other awful items that you were thinking of? There's plenty of them, so let me know in the comments down below or by tagging me on social media. Or let us know if any of the items we listed are actually some of your favorites, which if that's the case, maybe reevaluate your life. And once again, thanks to Opera GX for sponsoring this video.